All right, hello and welcome to another episode. And Zach, you're on camera. Oh my God.
I'm here.
He is. So you'll notice if you're watching this and eventually if you're listening that Caitlin is not here today. Caitlin is taking a little bit of break from general hosting duties. She's working on another subset of podcasts that will be kind of injected that Zach's working on with her. Recorded the first one of those this morning. So that'll be kind of cool, a little bit shorter format, a little bit different for you. And then she's just got a ton of client work. I think you know that, Zach. You've been working on some stuff with her. So she's pulling back a little bit. So Zach and I are going to host for a little while. We might have some guest hosts. We might have some other guests. But today we are talking about CTV ads. And do you really need a $10,000 budget to run CTV ads?
And just like in case you haven't listened yet, we did talk about this once before in an episode. Pollinated bees knees kind of gives you a baseline of what CT advertising is. So this kind of dives more deeper into some strategies and stuff like that.
Yep. So if you're listening and you're like, what the hell is CTV? Pause this, go look for the pollinated bees knees. I have no idea what episode number it is. But
It was actually from last March. So
oh, it's a year ago. Wow.
yeah.
So just go find that one. You can just search it if you're in our little page on whatever platform you want. It won't be on, well, it might be on YouTube. Is it on YouTube? I don't remember. It might not
I'd
be
have
on
to double
YouTube
check.
because that's a
There's
fairly
no
new thing for
video.
us.
No video at least. It would be an audio version if it's on YouTube.
Yeah, so this should be a really good one. Like CTV advertising has exploded. It's connected TV, so it's streaming. Hulu, Netflix free version, Paramount Plus, Disney Plus, whatever. If there's a streaming ad in a streaming service, that's what CTV is. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that and why you don't actually have to drop 10K on a single ad campaign to make it work for you.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
So we're having an interesting cocktail today. This is 100% Zach found this one, and we'll just go ahead and give the explicit on this because it's spelled Pho-King Champ, which we
So
pronounce fucking
pho,
champ.
yeah.
King Champ.
Yep. And for anyone that has had pho before, it's actually, yeah, the Vietnamese soup. And this, I wanted to start off with kind of a bang for my first episode, kind of co-hosting for this series. And basically, this drink is based off of a bull shot, which is kind of like a Bloody Mary, but instead of the tomato juice, it's beef bouillon. It also still has Worcestershire hot sauce and all the spices. The thing that's different about this one is it's not the beef bouillon, it's the pho.
Pho broth, yeah.
And this is kind of a upscale version of a bull shot. So this was created by Chad Solomon of Midnight Rambler in Dallas. And it's vodka, dry sherry, and house-made pho broth. So trying this out, it's a shot, so it's not a full cocktail. So for those of you that are worried about it being super heavy, I think a shot is like the perfect way to take this because you don't have to really drink a whole soup. And yeah,
I mean, if you want to throw some chicken in there, maybe an egg, like you'll be fine. Sure, why not?
Well, in the recipe, actually, they give full instructions for how to make the pho broth that they make, which I'll include, but I don't think I'm going to go into it because it's very involved. I'll say maybe the funnest way you could do this is if you get some pho, save some of the leftover broth when you're done, and try this out. So some of the ingredients: 2/3 an ounce of Absolut Elyx vodka. I looked this up. It's like very high-end vodka. It's
but the price point is really easy. It's like 20, 25 bucks, 23 bucks, 30 bucks.
Yeah, it's single estate winter wheat is where it's made from, and it's made in manually operated copper columns from 1921. And apparently the water is drawn from a giant underground lake beneath Sweden, so that's kind of interesting.
All right, well, okay.
And then there's a 1/4 ounce of dry sack 15-year-old oloroso sherry, an ounce of pho broth, a 1/4 ounce of lime juice, 2 drops of mineral saline, which is basically, I don't know if you've ever had saline in a cocktail, but it's just salt water. And the mineral part of it, they recommend Crazy Water number 4 from Texas. I also looked that up. Apparently, it's such a like strong mineral water that they only recommend you drink 1 to 2 a day. So that's interesting. But yeah, you finish that off with the garnish of a cilantro leaf. So the actual directions for this: add all ingredients into a shaker with ice and shake until chilled. Strain into a shot glass and garnish with cilantro leaf. I would say the hardest part is getting the ingredients and making the broth from scratch. But honestly, I might try this if I ever
Yeah.
feel like really making a complicated cocktail.
And I'm looking at the paragraph of making the broth. So that'll be in the notes. But we're not going to go through it. That's
Yeah.
crazy. But I mean, you could actually, so you could make, because it makes a bunch of broth, it looks like, way
hmm
more than you'll need. But you could then just make some pho, right? And you could just have pho for dinner and then do your shots and be good to go.
At the very least, you're gonna get a good recipe from this episode.
That's true. I would be willing to try that. I don't think I have any desire to do this shot. Um, I do think it'd be interesting though. You know how like with Bloody Marys they make those like it's a whole meal, like there's a cheeseburger in it and like all that
hmm
stuff. I think it would be interesting with this to do the shot as a breakfast drink with like the hard-boiled egg in it and like I don't know, like what would you do? Like a chicken tender maybe? Like
Something. I
I don't
honestly
know.
there's so many directions, like ways you could go with
This
it,
is
but
insane.
I know it's one of the crazier cocktails I've stumbled across. So
All right.
yeah,
Yeah, and by the way, I hate Bloody Marys. So I actually need to look at the bull shot, except that's also just a shot, right? Not a
yeah,
full cocktail. Because, I mean, that would be a lot of beef
super
bouillon for.
rich, super
Wow.
rich.
Okay. Yeah, never mind. I'm not going to go there. I'm just going to stick with my, like, bellinis and mimosas for breakfast and coffee drinks. Like,
And see, I love Bloody Marys, so this is right up my alley.
mm,
So I had to start it off with something that I liked. So,
all right. Well, I want you to make this and check back with us and let us know how it is. Actually, I want you to let us know how Chloe thinks it is.
oh
If you
my
can get her to
gosh,
do this shot.
she loves crazy stuff too. I'm sure she'd try it.
All right. Well, I guess this is the spot where we take a little quick dance break and we'll come back and talk about CTV and starting with a high budget myth, because it is a myth. All right, and we are back. There's probably almost no time for everybody else, but for us, we had a little bit of a break there. Um, all right, Zach, so should we talk about some CTV?
Let's do it. I'm excited.
All right, so I think first point we have is there's this myth that TV is expensive and that connected TV is expensive, streaming TV is expensive. And I mean, it can be. Sure, you can spend $50,000, you can spend $10,000, you can spend $20,000. But what's really interesting if you don't know this, especially for small and medium businesses, if you're doing stuff on your own, Hulu, Roku, Disney Plus, Paramount Plus, all of them have their own like self-serve streaming platform. Some of them will even create an ad for you. Not all of them. The minimums on those are all $500. Actually
Wow.
looked them up while we were on the break. And you don't get a ton for $500, but if you've got a narrow local audience or even like a neighborhood audience or a real niche, you're gonna be able to do something for $500 to $1,000.
And I think the reason a lot of people don't think CTV advertising is for them, at least from my perspective, is when I see an ad on Hulu or when I'm just watching any streaming platform, I probably just automatically assume that it's super expensive to run those kinds of ads. When like you said, the exact opposite. A $500 budget might not give you a lot, but it's enough to get you in the door. And if you do it the right way and have a strategy, a focused strategy for it, you can actually get a lot for your money. So
Yeah, I mean, and so the thing is, your cost per thousand, which is how TV is measured and how some radio is measured. I don't know what's going on with my hair today. It's generally like the $25 to $50 range for CTV. It just really depends on how niche you are, which channels you're on, what your day parts are. But if you're running a pretty broad schedule, and the beauty is you can target it so well, which I think we get into in our third point. But the so if you're running $500 and it's a $50 per thousand, which is kind of on the high end, that's 10,000 views of your ad for $500.
oh wow.
So yeah, I mean, because 50 times 10 is 500. Yeah, I did that right. So if you've got the right audience in there, that's great. And you can actually make some headway and gain some awareness and even increase traffic.
Well, and I think that's one of the major selling points of running these ads, right? Is like you said, the targeting, because you can get in front of your exact target audience. It gets super specific, which is kind of creepy if you think about it. But also,
it's totally creepy.
For like brand awareness, it's like fantastic, I would say. CTV advertising.
Yeah, it can be really great. And obviously, if you get some success and increase your budget, you're just going to get more views. And most of the platforms will tell you, like, as you're doing your targeting, these self-serve platforms will have limitations on what you can target. So it's not like you can be like, I want to buy, all the Star Wars shows on Disney Plus. Like, they're probably not going to let you do that for a $500 a month budget. But you generally pick your demographic. So if you want, like, moms with kids, you can pick that. If you want a certain age demographic, you can pick that. Certain interests, and you can usually pick your type of programming. Like, I want animated, I want action, I want sci-fi, those types of things. So as you kind of get that audience narrowed in, you're going to have a really, really good opportunity to get in front of them. I mean, honestly, so much cheaper than if you tried to like go to one local TV station and buy ads there. Like, one, they're not going to do much for $500 for you. You might get some like daytime game shows or something, a few of those. But yeah, it can really go far. But you do have to focus. Like, you can't do all those platforms I mentioned and get everything.
Yeah, it's not kind of like a set it and forget it. It's more of you have to have a really focused and good strategy so that you're able to reach the people you want in an effective way. I think my question would be, if $500 is the minimum a lot, what would we actually recommend as like a minimum to like actually get people foot in the door? I know it would be dependent on the business and kind of their industry and what they would want, but is $500 good enough, or is that something where there's a number or kind of a range we can look at to suggest to people to get started?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really tough question because it depends on what your goals are and how big your audience is. So generally, the smaller your audience, the smaller your budget can be. Or a larger budget with a small audience is just going to get you more. And it also depends on time, right? So if you spend $500 over Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to drive toward weekend sales, that's going to go a whole lot further than $500 over 30 days. So $500 over 30 days is really a slow burn awareness kind of campaign versus if you put it into 2 or 3 days, you'll get a whole lot more out of it. I think, for us, we really like to see clients start in the $1,000 a month. And that's like one ad, one message, one audience, one campaign. We're not spreading that too thin. Because if you start to spread it too thin, then you're just going to lose your impact. It's just going to go away really fast. So that's usually a pretty good rule of thumb. We've had had some clients and have done some freelance stuff for clients that we wouldn't work with necessarily. Some of them were doing like $10,000 a month, $15,000 a month. And they were getting results. But I think the biggest thing is look at the analytics of the platform. And if you're spending any amount of money, be in there every single day, sometimes multiple times a day, and looking at it. Because that's part of what we do. We optimize as we go. And we try to drive up those, the result that we get, and drive down the cost per result that we get, whatever it is we're trying to do. I think if you've got $2,500 per campaign, you're going to be really great. Like if that'd be for like a month or 3 weeks or something. You'll be in really, really good shape. I know there are other platforms that go across multiple. Like I'm talking about like buying straight from Disney Plus on Disney Plus, straight from Hulu on Hulu. Roku's a little bit broader because they're a broader streaming service. But there are what are called demand-side platforms, DSPs, where you can go across multiples. In audio, video, you can even get into out-of-home and other stuff. That's a whole nother conversation. But when you're on there, you can narrow your audience more but you can also then broaden the platforms that you're on even more as well. So you can hit your narrow audience across multiple platforms versus hitting
just one.
Just one.
On Hulu or, like you said,
Yep.
Disney Plus. That makes sense.
Yeah, you also tend to get better reporting and things like that, but they're harder to use, and some of them have higher minimums, and some of them have, like, if you want help from somebody, you've got to spend $10,000 a month, those kinds of things.
So, would you recommend? You would recommend overgoing to a specific platform unless, for whatever reason, you know that your target audience is like very much on Hulu or Disney Plus. You would probably recommend going a more broad approach with the like platforms that push out to multiple different platforms rather than just one.
I mean, it really depends. If you had $1,000 and could put $500 on 2 platforms, I might look at, because Disney Plus is going to be Disney. So there's Hulu content on Disney Plus now.
Oh yeah.
ESPN content, those types of things. So as you start to look at the broader piece, and then Paramount Plus has more in it. I didn't look up to see if Max has an ad platform. I'm sure they do. But like even on Max, I noticed that a lot of the Discovery Plus content is now moving over to Max as well. So a lot of that like home improvement stuff and food things, like I saw Pioneer Woman was in there as a suggested when I was in Max, and I'm like, wait, no, that's Discovery Plus, but Warner Discovery now owns both. So I think you can kind of take a look at that. The goal would be just to find where your audience is and start there, and obviously you want to get some results, get some return, get some income from it, get some ROI off those things, and then expand out from there. But if you do want to use a DSP, I feel like we've talked about DSPs before. I think that was in another episode.
Maybe, yeah. I think sounds very familiar.
There are some out there that have pretty low minimums, but you would have to we'd have to just take a look and kind of explore those.
And I think it's important also, even though you don't necessarily need a high budget, if you're going to go with a lower budget, kind of like we said, you need to have a really focused and good strategy in targeting. What are some tips that you would have for, I guess I would say, like, what are some tips for success? So we don't want people just throwing $500 in there and hoping it works. What are some basic level things that can help people get started in terms of strategy?
Yeah, watch out for ROS, which is just run of schedule. That means midnight to midnight, 24 hours a day. They can place your ad anywhere. It's going to be the cheapest, but the risk of your ad showing up at 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning is pretty high. Now, I once did advertising back in a previous life for a bartending school, and he's like, I want all my ads to be like midnight to 4 a.m. because that's when like my audience is awake. And I'm like, okay, those are like $10 a piece. Like, sure, we can do all we want with that.
That's awesome.
So yeah, you've got to look at not only what your audience is looking at, but when. But using those tools to really hone in and feel like, yeah, this is my audience when you get things narrowed down.
What are some things? Well, sorry, but I was also just thinking. This made me think. What are some things that you should like avoid doing? Because I feel like it's easy when you see all these targeting options to kind of maybe not get overwhelmed, but maybe get a little too focused on something or a little too all over the place. And so I'm kind of just curious, like, what are some things you should avoid too? Because that schedules thing is like something that I never even thought of. It's like, I don't want my ads showing up at a time where my target audience isn't going to be around.
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing stay-at-home moms, daytime is great. If you're doing people who work in an office, daytime is terrible for you. Unless you're buying like a news program that they might have on in the office, but even that is sort of hit and miss. So thinking about where your audience is when they can watch TV, same thing like with radio, why everybody wants morning drive and afternoon drive when people are in the car, right? I think the biggest mistake you can make is staying too broad, like buying CTV like you would buy broadcast TV, where it's like, I'm going to buy women 18 to 34. Okay, like that's a great starting point, but what do they like? What do they do? How do they behave? What programs do they watch? What kind of content do they consume? What are they interested in? Because all of those are going to be things you can target on that you can't really target on with broadcast TV. Broadcast TV is great to reach the entire geographic area, but that's kind of it. So I think another key area where people make mistakes are ads. When you're creating your ad, people will go for, they're trying to go viral. They're trying to get this thing people will talk about. They're trying to just really be like flashy and crazy with it. And you don't have to be. Um, as long as you're strong, like relevant and clear in your message and strong and a little bit engaging, you're not here to make the next viral video. You're here to spend 15 seconds, 30 seconds putting your message in front of people.
We're
Uh,
not trying to make a Super Bowl ad, is a good way of thinking
no,
of it.
no. And you also don't have $5 million.
Exactly.
We actually ran some CTV ads and they were all created with like animated type. And then we had some stock photos and some of our own, like we shoot our own stock photos of the agency as well for our website and things. We had some of that in there. But there were three ads. They were all pretty quick and easy to pop in. Um, and you can use all kinds of online tools to pull that together. What is it? Adobe Express. You can actually build a TV ad in Adobe Express.
That's awesome.
If you've got video of something you've done, you can also cut that together. I think the other one, and I know you've played with this a little bit, or at least I told you to play with it. Google's video, their new Google Vids.
Yep.
Um,
They have like a Gemini thing where you can basically it's kind of interesting. You can generate scripts or you can take a script and it'll generate a video from that script, but also it'll let you I think it'll create the script for you and it'll create an AI voiceover for you of that script if you want, but it also gives you the option to record your own voice. So it's kind of interesting, but
yep. And you can upload your own videos to insert in it, like your own graphics. Kind of cool, kind of interesting. But yeah, so there are tools for that, but just having it be well branded, super relevant, clear on your message, and appealing to your audience is really all that you need. And I think that we're seeing some of that more and more with smaller brands that are like startups. Like I just did some eco-friendly like laundry pods or whatever, and all of their stuff is simple colors. It's like these pastel combinations. And that's kind of how their ads look as well. And their banner ads are that way. I don't think they do print ads, but anything they do in video is that way. Really, really neat.
something that made me like think about is with the creative and basically like wanting to have it be really effective, and that's probably the most important thing. But when do CTV? What kind of goals can you accomplish with CTV ads? Like, obviously, you can generate leads from them, you can grow brand awareness, but is it like specifically really good for one of those two and not the other, or is it good? What's it good at and what's it bad at? What should you use CTV ads for? Is kind of what the question.
So the number one thing to use them for would be for awareness or getting information out there. You can use them to drive traffic a little bit because, again, the price is lower, so they can work a little bit more like radio. Not immediate traffic, but like building for a sale this weekend or this month or next month or that kind of thing. I think that when it comes to generating leads, it's a matter of where people are watching. So the younger your audience, the more likely they are to be watching that ad on a device. They're on an iPhone, they're on an iPad, they're on a laptop. Like I know some people who just watch TV on their laptop. Like it's all streaming TV on their laptop. If they're on one of those devices, they're going to have the opportunity to click, to pause it, to go look for more information, to go to your website and buy, etc. There are also people who obviously we do multiple devices, right? So I'm like streaming through my Apple TV and watching it on my 70-inch TV, but I've got my phone in me or my iPad is in my lap or something like that. But just know that like the clickability and the direct attribution to a purchase is harder on a TV than it is on another device. Same thing with like Spotify and Pandora and all of those. If you're listening on a device, it's easier. If I'm listening in my car, like I can't tap the screen. Like I can't jump into your stuff. So
Yeah.
so yeah, I think that it's great, but I love it for awareness. But we ran a very small campaign. I think it was just on Hulu, and we actually got a couple of leads from it.
Nice.
So have an easy way for people to contact you, a short URL. Like we use a71.co we can use as a short URL, for instance. versus your whole thing, or have it be something very memorable. And make sure it's on the screen. Like put it on the screen for a while, put it on the bottom, and just leave it there in a bar, the whole ad. Um,
So you definitely want to use it for brand awareness, but you don't want to throw everything into it for lead generation and have that be your only lead generation tool.
No, no, it's not. I mean, and even when we were doing like radio and TV, right? You would still do
Hmm.
like print, and radio was for like more immediate. Like I'm in my car, I hear McDonald's ad, I go to McDonald's, I buy McDonald's. And TV was more for a considered purchase or a longer term or brand building. I think the other thing that's interesting is if you want your ad to be seen, having a 30, a 15, and a 5 second version. Not everybody will do the fives. Almost everybody does 15s and 30s. Some places do 60s. 60 seconds, most people don't have enough to talk. Like, you don't have enough to talk about in 60 seconds. You
Yeah.
can get it out in 30. Um,
And
but
if
those
it's
15s and
anything,
fives
well, and if
are,
it's a skippable ad, because I know some of the streaming services allow you to skip, nobody's
Mhm.
going to watch the full 60 unless it's like the most engaging ad they've ever seen.
yeah, and it probably won't be. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
I've seen very few super engaging 60-second ads. Um, and yeah, I mean, and on TV, they're less skippable. So on a device, they're generally more skippable.
Yep.
But those, even the 5 seconds, like there are places where those can be popped in as bumpers. You also then get it for your social for like a really great teaser to drive people to your ad, which should just be on YouTube. Like put it there as well. You've got video. Make it work.
Yeah, for sure. I think honestly, I think where it's really overlooked too is because of the high budget myth, like maybe like not necessarily like restaurants and stuff, but like growing local awareness and through the like CTV ads is like really really big. Whenever I
Mhm.
get a location specific ad when I'm streaming something, I'm like, hey, that's near me. Like maybe I'll go check it
Yep.
out. And it's always it's like car washes or like
Mhm.
HVAC businesses is a big one I keep seeing.
Yep.
But that's always pretty interesting to me is
Yeah,
seeing
apparently you have a dirty car and need, I don't know,
apparently.
HVAC. I don't know, but yeah. So I think the local piece of it is really huge because like your local TV station is local, but it goes like here in the Midwest, like 100 miles. Like it might be the broadcast area for that, and I don't have that kind of a trade radius. And also, every single person watching that is not my audience. So with CTV, not only can you narrow your audience, but you can bring your geography down. So if you're a restaurant and your trade area, most of your people come from within a mile of your restaurant. What I would do personally is those people probably already know you're there. I would carve them out as a negative audience, the 1 mile from my restaurant, and I would go for the 1 to 5 mile. People who are close enough they could get there really easily, but may not drive by or may not understand it that much. So you can actually carve out like a donut audience like that, where I say, target people within 5 miles, except don't target people who are 0 to 1 miles from my location.
So you're just expanding your
Mhm.
visibility and reach out. That's cool.
Yep. But somebody like 25 miles away is probably going to go by 60 restaurants like mine before they get here. So why do I care? Like, they're probably not going to come here. Um, so I think that geography is really, really important when you're kind of working with CTV because
Oh,
you can use it. Like, you've
100%.
got all these tools, like, use them.
And that's like I said earlier, the biggest selling point for me at least is I have all these targeting tools that I normally wouldn't have with other platforms.
Yep.
And yeah, I think that's
I
awesome.
think the flip side of that is if you're going nationwide, like, and we have several clients who do national advertising, but if you're going nationwide and you try to buy like a nationwide cable or network TV on ABC, and it's just going to be expensive as heck.
Hmm.
And you're going to, again, get all that waste. But with CTV, you can actually get in some of those shows you want, but you're defining your audience. And even if your geography is the US, you're still bringing it down. You might only need to reach 10,000, 20,000 people out of the 300 million plus in the US. Well, you know what? You can do that, and you can only pay for those people that you're reaching. You don't have to pay for all the waste. So even on a really large geography, it can be beneficial.
And
Um,
so honestly, something I was just thinking about is this could be really good for like HR or like job recruitment ads too,
mhm.
because that's a great way to catch people that are looking for jobs is targeting streaming
Yeah.
services.
Well, and targeting them by some of the same things you might target them with on LinkedIn. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like some services let you target things like job title or seniority. You can put age in there. You've got your geography as well. So like if you don't want to hire people in certain states because you don't want to pay, you don't want to set up that state for payroll taxes with remote workers like being all the rage, you could just not target that state. Like, you're in North Carolina. We've already set up all the payroll stuff for North Carolina. If I wanted to hire a couple more remote employees, Iowa, Nebraska, South Dakota, and oddly enough, North Carolina are
There you
places that
go.
I could look at. Um, I think one of the other things is like if you've got a really good niche, like a language niche,
Mm-hmm.
especially like a Spanish language niche is really easy to target. You can really jump in and be far more effective and go much broader with your ad than you could with any kind of broadcast TV because local TV stations in other languages are pretty limited unless you're in like a big city or near a border, like near the Mexico border or something like that. Then you've got a few probably. But yeah.
Lots of flexibility with the targeting. Like I said, that's probably my favorite part about it. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and I think that's probably a good place to start, like to sort of wrap up and be like, you don't have to have a huge budget. $500 will get you something over a few days, especially or a week. But somewhere in that $2,500 a month range would be a really nice budget to have. You can do quite a bit with that. You don't have to have crazy creative. You just need to have a nice, like a good looking, professional looking ad of some sort, multiple lengths. I recommend 5, 15, and 30. Some services will do a 10-second ad as well. And then just avoid some of those pitfalls we talked about and use all of the tools to make that budget work super, super hard. Like,
And make sure you determine that this is going to be right for the goals you want to accomplish too, because it has its strengths and it's better at some things than others. Like we said, it's really good at brand awareness. But if you're throwing your entire budget hoping to get thousands and thousands of leads into this, it's not going to
not
be as
real.
effective as other channels.
Yeah,
But
it'd be really hard.
yeah, but yeah, we can wrap this up. Thank you for listening. As always, you can find our agency at antidote_71. And if you have a question you'd like to send our way, head to ctapodcast.live to shoot us an email. Or even better, leave us a voice message on our hotline at 402-718-9971. Your question might make it, well, it won't, it might, it will make it into a future episode.
We would love to do an episode just on questions, but we need a question to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we will have an episode coming up next week. I don't have what that is right in front of me, so it will be a mystery surprise episode.
It'll be a great episode.
Okay, so even our producer, Zach, does not know what episode it is next week. So things are a little bit fluid with guests. I know we had a couple guests who had a schedule change, so we're still working on our schedule with them. But we'll be back, and we'll see you next week. And it might be Caitlin doing something on her new special, or it might be Zach and I with another topic.
Stay
We'll see.
tuned.